Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to everyone to today's highly anticipated webinar on implementing multi-factor authentication with Keycloak. I am Anisha, and on behalf of Walking Tree Technologies, I extend a heartfelt welcome to each one of you, and it's truly a pleasure to have such an audience joining us today. So before we delve into this exciting agenda that we have lined up, let's take a moment to welcome those who are still joining us. And for those unfamiliar with our organization, let me provide a brief overview. So we at Walking Tree Technologies are dedicated to pushing our boundaries of technology-driven innovation. Our forte lies in conceptualizing and implementing state-of-the-art solutions, particularly in the realm of AI and emerging technologies as a collective of forward-thinking individuals. We are committed to seamless system integration and driving digital transformation initiatives. So today's webinar is all about implementing multi-factor authentication with Keycloak. So think of it as adding an extra layer of armor to your online presence, and we will walk you through the Keycloak basics and why MFA is a game changer, the nitty-gritty of the MFA types, and how you can put it to work, basically. So you can think of it as your guide to beefing up your digital defense. And I would like to request you all to stick around. And by the end, you will be armed with the MFA best practices to keep your online turf secure. And at the end of the webinar, we will set aside time to address all your questions and insights. And so please feel free to submit your queries in the Q&A box during the session. Let's make this an interactive and enriching discussion. So without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed speakers for today's session. So first up, we have Pani Kiran, Principal Architect of Walking Tree Technologies. He's an experienced technical leader with a demonstrated history of working in the software development arena. And he's skilled in many technologies such as EXTJS, AngularJS, Java, Node.js, blockchain, Ethereum, PostgreSQL, SQL, Oracle database, and MongoDB as well. Next, we have Rishabh Suri, technical lead at Walking Tree Technologies. He's always looking forward to learning more and more, and he's a strong believer that knowledge trumps all. He's also an experienced systems engineer with a demonstrated history of working in the IT industry. He's skilled in machine learning, Python, JavaScript, and many more technologies that are involved in this particular area. So as our speakers take the virtual stage, now let's delve into the heart of our webinar. Pani, let's start with you. I hand it over to you now.
Sure. Thanks, Anisha. Thanks a lot for the quick introduction. Hello, everyone. This is Funny Kiran Gupta. Just let me share my screen. Anisha introduced me. I'm playing in Principal Architect role in Walking Technologies. And here is my screen. Okay. So warm welcome to the session today. As Anisha already explained, today's session is all about MFA, how to implement MFA with a Keycloak. Now, before getting into the details, let's understand here you see the agenda. We'll discuss all the 7 points, seven topics today, subtopics today on this session. We'll start with understanding the Keycloak, quick introduction of Keycloak and 5 Ws of Keycloak, like who, what, when, and why. And then we'll also understand, once we understand Keycloak, then we'll also try to understand what and why MFA and the different types or low-level details and types of MFA. And then we also talk about how to implement MFA with the Keycloak. And Rishabh will be showing us a small demo application built with a sample MFA implementation. And then following with best practices that what should follow when we are implementing MFA. This is all about agenda that we're going to talk in this session. Let's start with introduction of Keycloak. Before getting into things into introduction directly into Keycloak. So I'd like to quote two quotes like basically entering a country is impossible without a proper visa. The idea of borderless world is a autopine pipe dream. Autopine pipe dream is a dream actually. So similarly, entering a country without a proper visa process is also a dream, which means visa acts as the identity verification for you, for a particular person, and as well as authorization to enter into a specific country or the wherever you're traveling or reaching out to. Similarly, building a successful enterprise application without identity and access management is like an autopilot pipe dream, which is almost impossible. Here again, to an enterprise application, we need two things to give an access to somebody, a user. One is identify who the user is and authorize what a given user can access within the application, be it a feature, data, anything, a system or a module within the application. So this is where the importance of identity and access management comes into picture when we are building an enterprise application. And getting into Keycloak, Keycloak is one of the identity access management solution available in the market today. So Keycloak is not only the solution, but Keycloak is one of them. Let's understand what is Keycloak, how is it different from other identity access management solutions. So let's understand quickly what is Keycloak or how is it quick difference. Keycloak is an identity access management solution which will help you to again identify and give an access to the users joining into or accessing the application. And Keycloak is an open source application with an Apache license. I hope everybody understands Apache license, open source and Apache, meaning you can get the code and you can use it for whatever the purpose that you want to without any claiming support from the builders. But there is a huge community around Keycloak supporting enhancing the Keycloak capabilities. And another important thing that we should consider when we're talking about Keycloak is built using Java. As we know, Java is one of the popular uh, programming language where most of the developers would be aware of. Given that Keycloak is developed using Java, it is easy to understand the system or the solution code, as well as easy to customize or enhance or customize. And also Keycloak has a long journey of more than 7+ years. It started around 7+ years ago, and the huge community, open source community sitting supporting Keycloak around it has got in this 7 years, it has got a lot of enhancements, features, bugs and feature implementations, which made the Keycloak solution robust and full of features in all the 7 years, 7+ years. Trying to understand the building blocks or the basic entities, building block entities of a Keycloak. There are the different kind of entities which help us to understand or helps to perform what Keycloak is performing. Users, as again the individuals who want to, who for whom we are trying to access, given access, authenticate and access the application. Roles, again, categorizing the users based on some roles like grouping the people, giving them a particular role so that you designate certain actions to be performed in a given application. Tenants is another entity where also called as realms and actually called as realms and clients in Keycloak terminology, where it allows to perform to act to help Keycloak work as a multi-tenant system where multiple organizations, tenants meaning an organizations or applications, can onboard on Keycloak, and a single instance of Keycloak can help to serve multiple applications or organizations. And Keycloak has app support like plugins, mobile SDKs, and API SDKs to build the solutions around on mobile apps or web applications as well. Theming is one of the important feature that Keycloak has got, which helps us to, make Keycloak adaptable or not adaptable, I would say, but yeah, look mm, more or less same to your enterprise application look and feel. The theme capability will helps you to will helps you to style your key clock instance of a specific organization or a client look similar to the enterprise application. And Keycloak again in this 7+ years journey, Keycloak has improved its security implementations or security features that it has got, which defenses the cyber attacks or any data loss. Identity provider, again, Keycloak has support to integrate with different identity providers and users base. It has got its own identity provider where all the users reside, and you have all the identity details of a user to verify the identity. And third-party integrations. Again, like Keycloak is not a complete end-to-end solution. I mean, not an enterprise application. It's a solution which provides you for identity access management piece of your enterprise application. It supports to integrate with any kind of enterprise application with the help of APIs. And also it has got third-party integration support like social logins or SAML, OpenID, and different third-party applications or plugins built around Keycloak to support or build a whole end-to-end enterprise application. Moving on to 5Ws of Keycloak, and 5Ws who, what, when, where, and why are five important things that we should think about when we are identifying when we're doing anything. Basically, when we're choosing a tool or implementing a solution, we need to understand whom we are building for, what we are building for, when it should be built, or when it should be used, or where it should be, where it should sit in the overall plan, and finally, why, right? So as part of it, let's try to understand one by one. Coming to who are the beneficiaries of a Keycloak solution. So in any software product lifecycle, we see these basic stakeholders. There'll be a lot of, but at least these are the major stakeholders: a product owner of the product, project sponsor who finances the project, be it own product or the any funded project. Product architect who defines the designs and defines the architecture of the application or a product to be built. Uh, development team who actually develops it, and the end user who finally uses the application. Seeing the benefits that these guys get, as product owner will have a better visibility in terms of what is available off the shelf, what needs to be developed so that a complete overall plan can be prepared. Right, and a project sponsor, the benefit that a project sponsor stakeholder would get is like it reduces the lead time so that application or a product can go to the market real quick, as we don't need to build access management, IAM part of the application. Product architect, it helps again to understand what is available on the shelf, or what can be reused, how the application can be made modular using this, and as well as think about the scalability in terms of overall product as well as IAM solution. Development team, as again, Keycloak does provide the complete solution around IAM. So development team doesn't need to think about or work on developing an IAM part of a solution in the product from the scratch. They should be thinking about integrating the Keycloak with their application using APIs. And finally, the end users, one of the key features of Keycloak SSO single sign-on. With this feature, end user can seamlessly switch between the apps of the same organization, provided it is configured. Uh, it is configured by the systems. Using an SSO capability, end user will be able to switch between the applications seamlessly and use them without trying to log in independently into each of the application again and again. This is the who part. I mean, who will be the beneficiaries? Moving on to what are the advantages that you get uh, with the Keycloak. One, identity as a service, like identity will be available in the Keycloak. It can be accessed as a service, and access is configurable. Again, you define roles, group the people into the users into the roles, and give access to those roles, which can be configured. You know, you want to configure, let's say, particular role, administration role should be able to modify the settings. A citizen role or user role should be able to just view the data, not able to create the data. Example, I'm saying this kind of access can be configured in Keycloak without writing any code. Multi-tenancy is another advantage. Like again, within the organization, within the same organization, if there are multiple applications, multiple clients can be created within the Keycloak and give access, configure access and identity to those applications so that single with a single instance of Keycloak, multiple applications can be supported. Similarly, multiple organizations with their multiple respective multiple applications can also be supported. Single sign-on, again, we discussed like support single sign-on for multiple applications. That's an inbuilt capability of Keycloak, which can be utilized. That's one advantage. And Keycloak has inbuilt support for inherent support for microservices and micro UI architecture. So this is one advantage. If you're nowadays, like in the recent past, all the most of the applications, enterprise applications being developed for the following microservices and micro UI architecture, given their benefits. Then Keycloak has its inherent support, so it becomes easy to integrate Keycloak with the enterprise application building with these architectures. Social login is one of the advantage, like the B2C applications where customers, business want to allow customers to log in with their social identities like Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., and etc. And Keycloak has the capability to support most of these social website login integrations where user will log in with their social identity and still will be able to access the application with the given with the limited access. This is about the advantages, the 6 advantages that we get when we choose to go with the Keycloak. And then we need to understand when to bring a Keycloak. I mean, we cannot use because Keycloak provides an IAM solution. We should not be integrating with all the applications or any application that you're developing, right? We need to understand when to use or when to think about Keycloak. One is when you're building an enterprise grade application where you need definitely when you call it as an enterprise grade application, definitely we need identity and access capabilities. That's where one of the reason when that's when we need to choose Keycloak. Think about Keycloak to integrate with your enterprise application. Second, microservices architecture. I mean, with the Keycloak microservices architecture being followed in your enterprise application development, Keycloak would become obviously obvious choice to use for identity access management. Separation of concerns when you're treating identity and access management as a cross-cutting concern, meaning a modularity kind of thing, and separations, then that's also one of the reasons that you should choose to go with Keycloak for identity access management in your enterprise application development. And finally, where Keycloak comes in your enterprise application development. Again, this here I've taken just an example of microservices architecture with Kubernetes orchestration tool. But again, this it can be integrated with any kind of architecture as well. But as being microservices with Kubernetes is a popular combination nowadays, I've just taken an example where you can see, the Kubernetes cluster where it has API gateway, the a number of services running in ingress controller forwarding the requests to the services through application gateway, where basically application gateway is the gateway which validates the request and forwards the request to the specific service. That's where Keycloak can come in, and API application gateway can interact with a Keycloak to verify the identity and also verify the authorization to access a specific service or an API to API to access. Right. This is where you can see where a Keycloak can be integrated in or can sit in your application architecture, enterprise application architecture. And finally, why Keycloak? Again, as I've said already, Keycloak is not only one IAM solution. There are a lot of IAM solutions out in the market. Uh, Considering along with the Keycloak, I've considered Okta and Cognito, AWS Cognito as the two popular IAM solutions. Let's compare these three tools with this 7 features. One, the very first thing that we will consider, or anyone would consider when choosing any particular solution or a tool is a license type, because that would factor a lot. That would become a major factor in terms of finance. So in this, when you compare these three, Okta and AWS Cognito or enterprise license, where you need to subscribe subscribe their licenses, meaning yearly, monthly, or based on the users, etc. There are different licenses available which you need to opt for, which you need to pay for Okta and AWS Cognito. Whereas coming to Keycloak is an Apache open source and Apache license where you can get the complete code of Keycloak, and you can use it as the way you want. And the next thing is hosting options. Where do you host this Keycloak instance or your IAM solution? Coming to Keycloak, as you have a code in place, with you, you should be able to build and run it anywhere the way you want. Depending on your infrastructure, be it a Kubernetes, OpenShift, or even a simple Docker running in your one of the VMs. It can be done. But whereas Okta, AWS Cognito, these are provided as a software as a service where hosting is taken care by them. APIs or the domain will be provided to access your IAM solution. And single sign-on, when you talk about IAM solution, single sign-on is one of the key features that everybody would look for, whereas it is provided in all the three solutions. Role management is another feature where it is provided in all the solutions. Coming to scalability is another important factor or a feature that you would consider when you're trying to build an enterprise-grade application. Whereas Okta and AWS Cognito are provided as a SaaS service, software as a service, the scalability part of it is inbuilt, or will be taken care by the providers like Okta and AWS as inbuilt service. But coming to Keycloak, as the code is with you and you're hosting your own service, scalability should be programmed or taken care by yourself. And in the nowadays, with the improved DevOps capabilities with the Kubernetes cluster and Kubernetes and OpenShift and any other tools, scalability, managing the scalability part of a Keycloak instance is not a crucial. Not so complex thing to manage. Multi-factor authentication is again one of the important features that we should look for when we are thinking about an IAM solution, which is also a high important topic in today's session, which is provided in again all the three uh, IAM solutions. Social login again is provided in all the three solutions. Another factor which I've not listed out here is customizability. If we talk about customizability, Okta and Cognito, we will not be able to customize because again, it is a software as a service. If at all you need any customizations, you need to check with the teams and get done by them. But coming to Keycloak, as you have a complete code in your plate and it is built in Java, which is a very popular programming language. And if we are comfortable with it, we should be able to easily customize and extend the capabilities of Keycloak on our own. These are if you look at this comparisons, license, scalability, hosting, and customizability. These are the four major features that would allow you to choose or allow you to choose Keycloak as an IAM solution, the IAM solutions. Okay. is where the clock stands front, these comparisons. Now, getting to our highlight topic, the important topic of the day is MFA. So let's understand what is MFA. MFA stands for Multi-Factor Authentication, which is a security mechanism that requires users to provide multiple forms of their identification before getting access to the system or an application or a data. It could be anything. The fundamental idea behind MFA is beyond the general username and password, adding additional security layers to authenticate and authorize a user into a user to give access to the application. So general any before MFA, like to get access to any application, we'll be using username and password, which is also called as single factor authentication, meaning only one factor of data is provided to get the access. Whereas similar to that, getting uh, using more factors of data to authenticate yourself to get access to the application is what called as multi-factor authentication. And let's see how many factors are there. And I see majorly three different factors that can be used for MFA purpose. If you see, first one is a knowledge factor. That is something you know, something like password, username, PIN, security questions, right? This is something you know, the knowledge that you have. That factor is to, I mean, to authenticate yourself or to verify your identity. And the second factor is possession factor. That is something you have, other than the knowledge that you have, the physical uh, entity, something is with you, which will help you to authenticate yourself to the app, authenticate yourself to get access to the application. What are those what comes under possession factor is physical devices, tokens, meaning the physical token devices, mobile device, or desktop, right? Which can also say smart cards, something like that. Mobile phones using OTP, something like that, which is a physical entity which is involved to generate another factor of data to authenticate yourself to get access of the application. So basically, physical devices, physical tokens, mobiles, laptops, smart cards, SMS, OTPs. This comes under possession. And the third factor is inherent. After completing what you know and what you have, is the third one is what you are or something you are, which is inherent factor. Uh, Basically, a knowledge factor, the knowledge you have, which can be shared so that it can be copied, I mean, transferred to somebody else. Possession, a physical thing which can be transferred to somebody. But to verify your identity, something you are, the inherent factor is the key, where the biometric, the fingerprints, facial recognition, voice recognition, your behavioral metrics, these are something which cannot be transferred to somebody and which will help you to identify yourself, which cannot be forged by somebody else to get that to get the access to your application to your account without your permission. So these are the three major factors. There are a lot of subtypes or the ways to produce this data, which we'll look into the upcoming slides. Then we understand what is MFA and the factors of MFA. Now let's try to understand why MFA is so important. As we discussed before, general authentication mechanism is username, password, which is like single factor authentication, which is basically a username and password. There are several flaws or vulnerabilities around it. Uh, which can using through which your data can be leaked. Your data can be leaked, through which the unauthorized access to your account can be granted to somebody else. The different things, different factors that are involved here, like password weaknesses, like because of your complexity, password complexity is low, or you're using reusable. The your meaning here is a end user using the same passwords in between multiple applications, or the password is the complexity is very less, easy to crack by somebody else. So if you're the somebody else cracks your password, you're lost. I mean, your access, your account access is gone for a toss. Anybody can access on your behalf. Phishing attacks is one of the other way to lose your identity or access, like social engineering and credential harvesting. Brute force attacks, like trial and error methods, because you use weak passwords. This is automated attempts can help hackers to steal your data, steal your username and password, and get a unauthorized access to your accounts. Credential sifting over the network, like monitoring a network, middleman attacks, using this kind of mechanisms, hackers can steal your username and password to get a unauthorized access to your account. Inability to verify an identity change, like identity theft. I mean, if the username and passwords are stolen by somebody, then your identity itself is lost. I mean, there will be no way by for the system to cross check that the given person or end user is really accessing, or somebody else is trying to get an unauthorized access. And the other vulnerability that you have is, like, when you store the passwords. Generally nowadays we use password storage managers, which can be uh, which can share the data between the applications running in your machine or a mobile, right? Basically the plugins or the other Android app, other applications which can steal the data from this secure password storage managers, which can also lead to the unauthorized access. This is why, because of all these ways, your single factor authentication, your username and passwords can be stolen, and somebody can unauthorized can get access to your accounts without your authorization. This is why we need to go for a multi-factor authentication. This is important. We talked about the factors, three different factors under MFA: the knowledge, inherence, and sorry, knowledge, inherence, and possession factors. Now, coming to the real implementation of these factors, these are the different types of MFAs can be implemented. Multi-factors, different type of factors can be implemented to meet the MFA needs of your IAM solution. Seeing into detail, passwords and pins, which is basic thing, single factor authentication. Again, any of these, only if you are using only one factor to authenticate or identify and authenticate and authorize a user, that comes under single factor authentication. So knowledge factor, which is very obvious thing, passwords and pins. Security tokens or mobile app authentication. Nowadays we have a lot of mobile authentication apps which gives you a push notification when somebody is trying to access your account, and unless you approve in your mobile app or authenticate the request in your mobile app, the account will not be uh, system will not grant access to the account. Again, that comes under the possession factor. Biometric authentication, like your fingerprint, voice, these kind of things comes under uh, inherence factor. There are different SDKs, the third-party systems provide this capabilities inbuilt, which can be integrated easily with a Keycloak. Time-based authentications, like one-time passwords or time-based tokens, can be generated in authenticator apps uh, like Google Authenticator, Outlook Authenticator, these kind of tools. And adaptive authentication is like based on a user behavior, you change the factors. Like, let's say in your IAM solution, you consider, example, I'm saying three factors. One is password, one is security token, three is uh, time-based token. Now, let's say based on the user behavior, if user is trying to log in multiple times from different machines, then all of a sudden you want to ask user to give a security token. Otherwise, if he is logging in from the same machine, just password and one-time password, these two things should be enough. If you want to add an additional security, when you see a risk with this user, you want to give consider another authentication factor, other factor to authenticate this user. You can add security token as a third authentication factor when there is a difference in behavior of the user. This is called an adaptive authentication strategy, which is one of the capabilities of Keycloak, which can be utilized. Social login identifiers, again, which we already discussed, like Google, Facebook, Twitter, and etc. This can also be added, used as one of the factors in this multiple factors that you consider for your IAM solution. And like an adaptive authentication, you can set up an additional authentication for sensitive transactions. For example, if you consider a banking application, sensitive transaction in this could be, debiting some amount, debit transaction. If you want to, get double check or authorize, allow the user to authorize him or herself again while doing that transaction, you will be able to do that in Keycloak by setting an additional authentication for sensitive transactions, like meaning specific pages of your application or specific API calls. You will be able to set up an additional authentication. And the last type of MFA that can be considered as one of the factor is FIDO authentication. FIDO itself is a prominent authentication tool. Mobile apps basically and SDKs also be provided, which has time-based code generation as well as SMS OTP as well as mobile authentication as well. This can be integrated well with the Keycloak as well and can be utilized as one of the factors in MFA. These are the different types of MFAs. Any combination of these factors can be used to build your MFA. Generally, two-factor authentication was prominent at some point of time, where combination of two factors, basically passwords and security tokens, or passwords or one-time passwords. But given the technology improvements and the hacking capabilities in data being hacked by the hackers very much and increased unauthorized access of the accounts, multi-factor authentication became very prominent, which is more than two factors. You consider more than two factors to make your application more secure. So as we understood Keycloak, we understood why, what, when, where of Keycloak, and we also understood what is MFA, why we need to use MFA, and the different factors which can be considered as an MFA. Now we are left with understanding how to implement MFA. So Rishabh Siri, my colleague and co-presenter, co-speaker, will help us understand how to implement MFA with a Keycloak building. He has built a small demo application. He'll be taking us through us. Rishabh Siri, take it
Yeah,
forward.
yeah. Thank you, Fani. Thank you for explaining everything in so much detail. So let's uh let's say let's talk about the use case we have tried to implement in this dummy application. So this sample application is supposed to showcase how we can use role-based access in Keycloak. So in this dummy application, we have a citizen role who can create a grievance and create a list of grievances. So let's consider an example. A citizen, there is a street light on someone's house and it's not working properly. So they would like to raise a grievance over here. But they would not want another citizen to look at that grievance, whatever the grievance has been raised. So over here, we will give them the capability to raise a grievance, and then we have a supervisor role who will have the ability to see all the grievances created by every citizen and maybe, take some valid action on it, maybe edit the form to make sure that it is all right. So through this, we'll be able to see how role and actions are coming into play with Keycloak. Let's take a look at the application first. So let's say this is a dummy application. Once we click on login, we'll be routed to the Keycloak login page. So this, what I'm highlighting here is the realm, as Funny stated. So realm and tenants could be at an organizational level for it allows multiple organizations to be configured here. So let's say I want to log in through a citizen account and I want to raise a grievance through this citizen. So since I've already enabled multi-factor authentication using my Microsoft Authenticator, I will be entering that one-time code over here. We'll walk through the setup of multi-factor authentication as well through Keycloak. Now, let's say I have a grievance to raise. I've already raised like a couple of grievances earlier, so 4 grievances are already there. Now, let's say I want to raise another one. Let's say I'm just entering dummy data over here to showcase how we can raise a grievance over here. So once it is saved, as you can see, Keycloak demo has been entered here. So only it will be visible to only this particular citizen. Let's try to log in through another citizen and see if it's visible to them. So I'm logging in through a different citizen. So for this also, since multi-factor authentication is enabled, I'll enter the code for the second citizen. So as you can see, the Keycloak demo grievance is not available for citizen 2 to view. This is how role and access is helping out here. Now let's try to log in through the supervisor account as well to see whether they are able to see all the grievances or not. So once we log in through the supervisor account, as you can see, this supervisor does not have the ability to create a grievance. He can only view the grievances raised by all of the citizens in this realm, and we can maybe edit a particular grievance. Let's say I want to make sure that my grievance is different. As you can see, this particular grievance has been edited. So this is how role-based access is being configured here. Now let's go to Keycloak and see how it has been configured. So I'm signing into the master realm. So once I log into the master realm, as you can see, we have the option to create multiple realms here. I've created one specifically for this demo over Pixie Keycloak realm. Over here we have groups where I've created multiple groups, admin groups, citizen groups, supervisor groups. So groups help us to add multiple users, and if a group is assigned any particular role, that role cascades to all the users in the group. So let's take a supervisor group, for example. And if you go to role mapping, you can see that I've assigned the supervisor role to this particular group. Now, for the citizen group, it's the citizen role, and for the supervisor group, it's the supervisor role. Let's see what roles have to offer in Keycloak. Let's consider citizen, for example. I've just mentioned the description over here: can create a grievance, cannot edit a grievance. So, and over here we have multiple attributes which we can add here. Maybe we can add actions over here, and any such details can be added here. Now coming to users, let's take citizen for example. So this particular user citizen, it has been assigned to the citizen group, and the citizen group in turn has the citizen role mapping, but there is no direct role assigned to this particular citizen. So whatever role is assigned to whatever group a citizen belongs to, the group's roles are cascaded to all its users. Now let's see how we can enable multi-factor authentication over here. So coming to the authentication tab, we have a sub-tab policies, and within policies we have OTP policy. So here, as Funny explained, we can implement multiple types of OTPs. Like it will help us enabling MFA through different types of OTPs. So we have type-based OTPs, counter-based OTPs. We have the ability to set the hashing algorithm here, the number of digits of the OTP. how much leeway you want to give for a particular OTP. So if it's time-based, for how much time would uh, like there can be a gap between reading the OTP and entering the OTP. So how much you want to allow for it. And then we have an OTP token period after which the OTP is going to expire. And we have supported applications, free OTP, Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator. You can use any one of them and set up your authentication through it. I've already set these settings. Once we click on save over here, we can go to the flows tab. And here, since we are logging in through the browser right now, we'll be setting up for the browser flow. Coming to the browser flow, we have this flow here, browser conditional OTP. Here it is usually by default it is marked as conditional, so I've made it required. And yeah, that's about it for setting it up in Keycloak. Now, whenever a user is going to log into this particular, so yeah, one more thing. So this OTP mandate has been set at the realm level. You can set it up as at the user level as well, but right now I've set it up at the realm level. So if I try to log into the master realm, it is not enabled for the master realm. So uh, if a user belonging to the master realm tries to log in, they'll be able to. But if they try to log in, if any user belonging to the OAuth Pixie Keycloak realm, the second one, if they try to log in here, they'll be mandated to enter the OTP from their authentication app. Or if they're logging in for the first time, they'll be asked to set up their authentication process. So let's see if I sign out now and if I try to, log into, let's say, the if I want to, log into as you saw here, if I try to log into this particular realm, it is going to ask me for the OTP as you saw earlier. So if I enter my OTP here, I'm going to be logged in. Now coming back to, now let's see how it's supposed to, uh, look at your phone level as well. So if you're logging for the first time after the OTP has been mandated for your realm, you will see this particular screen. The first screenshot in the screen over Pixie Keycloak realm. You'll see the QR code over here, and on the second screen, on the second screenshot, you're seeing the screenshot from a phone where you'll get the scan QR code option. And once you click on that, you will scan the QR code being shown in the first screenshot, and that's about it. Your authentication has been set up, and once you receive this one-time password code, you'll have to enter the one-time password code over here in the next screenshot, and you'll be signed in. So yeah, that's about it for the demo part of it from the Keycloak point. Also, we can see it from our dummy application as well. So for this dummy application, we have set up the front end of it through Angular, and so what Angular does is it hits issuer URL belonging to Keycloak, where all the certificate URLs and all the hashing algorithms are present, the token URLs are present. So OAuth automatically takes care of it. And once we hit that issuer URL through our front end, it routes. So we have to enter a redirect link in our Keycloak, which routes it back to our application. And once it's routed back to the front end of our application, it will route to the backend using and it will pass on the access token as well. So in our REST controller, we have an API home, where we'll get the JOT token over here, and which will in turn have the realm access. So it will have the claims, which will further have the realm access and the roles which are defined here. So as I'd shown earlier, we can mention many attributes inside roles also. Those also we are going to get inside claims, and based on those roles and claims, roles and actions, we can set up what is allowed for a particular user, whether they'll be able to create, in this example, whether they'll be able to create a grievance or view a grievance, or you know create or edit both based on their allowed access. So yeah, now let's talk about some of the best practices that should be followed while implementing MFA. So let's talk about user education first of all. So emphasizing the importance of educating users about the benefits and functionality of MFA and Keycloak. So that's like really important. The user should understand why it's so important to implement MFA. And also apart from that, we need to provide clear instructions on how to set up and use MFA methods. So this will foster a security conscious user community. Now, let's talk about password policies. So integrating robust password policies within Keycloak to complement MFA, ensuring that users employ strong, unique passwords, enforcing regular password updates, and educating users on the significance of creating complex credentials. It enhances the overall security of any application. Now, let's talk about adaptive authentication. So one should, leverage Keycloak's adaptive authentication features to dynamically assess and adjust security measures based on user behavior and other factors. Implementing adaptive authentication enhances the system's ability to detect and respond to potential security threats in real time. Now, coming to role-based access. So, mhm, so Keycloak, what it does is it enforces the principle of least privilege. So actually, it gives us all the tools to enforce the principle of least privilege. So as we saw, we can define a number of roles within Keycloak, and for every role, we can set a couple of attributes or actions which will, tell the application what it is allowed to, what a particular role, what a particular user who is assigned a particular role is allowed to perform on an application. So yeah, so we can, assign specific roles based on job responsibilities, limiting user access to only the necessary resources. Then we have mobile device security. So since all the OTPs and all the authentication applications are on your phone, so it's really important to, implement device security. So stressing the importance of securing mobile devices as an integral part of the MFA process. So we need to encourage users to enable device level security features, like what Funny said earlier. It could be, biometrics or pins or fingerprints or face ID to, protect access to Keycloak and associated accounts. Then we have multi-factor authentication for administrators. So since administrators have more than normal privileges for any particular application, for any as compared to any other user for an application, so enforcing MFA for administrator accounts in Keycloak to add an extra layer of protection against unauthorized access should be a must, and administrators with elevated privileges should undergo heightened authentication measures to safeguard critical system configurations. So now let's talk about periodic security audits. So one should always conduct regular security audits within Keycloak to identify what your vulnerable areas are and assess the effectiveness of MFA implementation. Periodic reviews these help ensure ongoing compliance with security standards, and if there's any identified issues, so it prompts immediate remediation of those. So coming to secure channel of communication for communication. So we can utilize secure communication channels such as HTTPS to transmit authentication data between clients and Keycloak. Implementing encryption protocols ensures the confidentiality and integrity of sensitive information during the authentication process. Yeah, so now coming to adhering to regulatory requirements. So let's say every country or authority has their own regulatory requirements. So GDPR regulatory compliances are what's followed in Europe. If it's health-based, HIPAA needs to be followed as per regulatory requirements. So Keycloak gives us all the necessary tools to implement these compliances. We just need to leverage them, and we once we implement MFA using Keycloak, we should make sure that we do not deviate from these compliances for whatever country or region we are implementing it for. So Keycloak already provides us with all the tools necessary to ensure these compliances. Then we have the user feedback mechanism. So for like any other application, until unless we have a mechanism for user feedback set in place, there is little scope for improvement. So similarly, we need to establish a user feedback mechanism to gather insights on the MFA experience. Regularly, we need to solicit feedback to identify usability issues, address concerns, and refine implementation. This will, promote user acceptance and engagement if we implement user feedback mechanisms properly. Yeah, so that's about it for the best practices for MFA. We'll come to the Q&A section now. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to shoot them across to us.
Yes, Rishabh, we have a few questions in the Q&A box. So first we have a question from Stephen. He's asking that in what ways does Keycloak's MFA meet the particular compliance needs of the insurance sector, including GDPR, HIPAA, and other local laws?
So as I said, for these benefits as well, for these best practices, so Keycloak provides us with all the tools. Like we have this role-based access in place for Keycloak. So using that, we can, implement all the compliances for GDPR, HIPAA, and any other local law. So it gives us all the tools for it. We just need to leverage them.
Yeah, yes, Rishabh. Let me extend it a bit. When we're talking especially about, GDPR and HIPAA and other local laws. Local laws, I mean, that depends on the country or the region where your enterprise application piece is being implemented. But coming back to GDPR and HIPAA, right? In GDPR, the major two factors that we should be considering is user consent and access controls, right? So Keycloak has got a user consent management module or a feature available using which you will be able to, provide and prompt user an explicit consent for data processing activities, which also includes this MFA related process. So getting that user consent with the MFA is something that GDPR can be complied. Your application can comply with GDPR laws, and as well as data minimization by adding this additional security layers with MFA. The principle of data minimization can be achieved by ensuring that the sensitive information is adequately protected with multiple factor authentication. Right. These are the two major things that I can quickly recollect and see ways to comply for GDPR. Coming to HIPAA, the three things that I can recollect is access control again with a strong MFA multi-factor authentication. Access control can be ensured and PHI or other sensitive data. Basically, HIPAA is more intent toward PHI, personal health information that will be stored in Keycloak with encryption, and the developer or the system who are implementing should take care of extracting or showing the data, which is only required and falls under PHI rules of HIPAA. But just securing perspective, the MFA with MFA in Keycloak that can be achieved. And audit trailing is one thing that HIPAA would expect, which is a capability in Keycloak which can be enabled, and every access can be logged, and you'll have transparent. Secure communication, again, Keycloak, as I said, it has got its own security has been being improving from last 7+ years. At the same time, but we should be taking care of when we're implementing, we should be taking care of some basic things like, your network, infrastructure network is secure, and Keycloak and your application is accessible on HTTP, right, with a proper secure certificates and etc. These are the three things that can be considered for to make your application compliant with the HIPAA. And local laws depends on various countries or regions that you are implementing, and Keycloak has a lot of capabilities again, where like you can customize the flows of authentication, adaptive authentication, sensitive transaction authentication, additional authentication. I think using all this, you should be able to meet the specific region custom local laws. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. Stephen, I hope we have answered your questions. We have another one from Jedi. He's asking that how can MFA in Keycloak be seamlessly integrated with existing user authentication systems and workflows?
There's no straight answer for this, Jedi, because I'm not sure which user authentication system you're talking about, but given, as I said again, integration with third-party applications is very easy in Keycloak, given that implicit flows, that is with the API support is there with the Keycloak. So we need to understand, to talk about it in detail, we need to understand what is the existing authentication system and what are the workflows and the process that your authentication system follows. And you can completely replace an existing authentication system with Keycloak. That's one way of doing it. If that's not the case, you can integrate well, meaning make your authentication system as one of the factor in Keycloak, and one of the authentication factor in Keycloak, and for the rest of the factors you redirect your users to Keycloak and make it more robust, your application more robust. But in one answer, it can be done. Just that we need to understand how is your system and what are the workflows built around your system. And that's when we can take a call using which feature of a Keycloak or what APIs of a Keycloak will help you to do this with ease.
Okay. Another question which we have from Devin Taylor. He's asking, in what ways may Keycloak's MFA system be modified and expanded to meet evolving security requirements and potential future expansion?
Yeah, this is also a kind of, uh, not a straight question to answer again, because the question itself has some, assumed things like potential future expansions, right? Evolving security needs. Those things we need to understand. From your question, what I can understand quickly in just 1 or 2 minutes, what I can think of is like, being Keycloak built in Java, you have the complete code. It allows you to extend and customize the existing capabilities. This MFA process or a workflow can be extended to, quickly I can think of is combining multiple authentication factors, not one after the other, but maybe a combination of two-factor inputs at once and improve it. Maybe that's a quick answer, but at a very high level, what I can say is like, because of its given extensibility and customizability, uh, name the feature, I mean, we should be able to implement with Keycloak. I hope I try to give whatever the best answer that I can. If you have more details, please get back to us. We'll try to get into details and help you with more clear answers.
We have one more question from Ilyas. He's
Mhm.
asking that on scalability feature for Keycloak, we have said that programs are required. So he's asking if we could elaborate on this.
I think I already tried to in high level because scalability is more of an infrastructure thing. I mean, not completely, but more of an infrastructure thing. The orchestration tools that we are using in nowadays, like in microservices architecture or any other architecture for that matter, a popularly used orchestration tool so far is right now is OpenShift and Kubernetes. There are a lot of, but at least I am aware of, at least I am using more frequently. Using these two tools, including cloud, also like name it like AWS, also provides the scalable features out of the box. It's just that you need to, if you go to cloud especially, it's just that you need to understand your requirements and configure the AWS instances. If you talk about simple AWS instances under the load balancer, it's about configuring the load balancer with a proper rules and then creating a auto scale group, auto scale group to with the specific rules to figure out when to scale up and when to scale down to meet the high requests or huge requests coming into the Keycloak. And rest of the things, like if you have multiple instances, system does the support. I mean, coming to the backend, I mean, database, again, the same thing. If you are in AWS or any cloud, again, replication, these things can be implemented to scale the database as well. And if not on cloud, if I'm aware of Kubernetes and OpenShift, they have got a very good scalability options out of the box, which can be configured with these and can achieve the scalability in detail. If you have a specific question, I mean, about any specific cloud or any specific question on how to achieve the scalability in Kubernetes or OpenShift, maybe you can come up with a specific question. We'll be able to help you with detailed answers.
Okay. So I hope we have answered all the questions. Okay, we have one more. We have from Shubhangi. She's asking that how can we go about the deployments part using Keycloak? Is it as easy as we do using the cloud AWS?
Absolutely. Again, I already talked about it because it's not just Keycloak, right? Keycloak and your application. It depends on what kind of infrastructure you're using, and it's not mandatory that the same infrastructure, meaning if your application is in cloud, it doesn't mean that your Keycloak should also be in cloud. But generally, we tend to put everything on the same architecture, same infrastructure. It is as easy as, I mean, the Keycloak comes with a Docker image as well. You can just bring up your Docker image, point to your RDS in cloud, and just spawn it up. It's as easy as bringing up any of your microservices in cloud.
Shubhangi, I hope we have answered your question.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, we are done with all the questions as of now, and with this, we are at the end of our session. So thank you, Rishabh, and thank you, Fani. Thank you so much for an enlightening session, and thank you to all of you who are joined with us today and for being a part of our webinar today. I trust you really found this session very insightful. And before we conclude, I would like to announce our upcoming webinar, which will be scheduled in the month of January on 24th. And the discussion will center around mastering synthetic data, a deep dive into Unreal Engine 5's capabilities. So do look out for invitations in your box. And until next time, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you everyone for joining the session. Hope it was helpful.